Hello everyone, hope you are doing good. This is Milin and welcome to the DevOps Dean channel. In this video, I'm gonna explain you how you can set up your DevOps lab to perform the DevOps activities which you find to learn the various tools. So in typical software industry, you find a setup of clusters. So there are multiple master servers which eventually manages multiple nodes to install various tools which comes under DevOps. Let's say it's Jenkins or Ansible server or Ansible tower or OpenShift or Kubernetes. So if you want to perform any task or if you want to practice any tool on your local setup, it is very difficult to create this kind of setup on your local system. The question arises how we can create this kind of setup on your local system. So Linux has a Linux containers which is known as LXD containers. So the LXD containers is a next generation system container manager which has a pre-made created images available. You don't need to create the image from the scratch. The pre-made images there are available with various operating systems such as Ubuntu, CentOS, Red Hat. All the images are available. You don't need to create it. LXD is a privileged daemon which runs as a service and it makes a REST API to create the containers. It is secure, scalable, image based and better resource control. You can limit your containers memory or container CPU usage. Network management and storage management. It has its own separate network bridge to communicate with the underlying hardware or underlying network system. It has a storage management which creates a separate storage management which your Linux machine container can use it. So now let's understand how the LXD design is. In typical virtual machine architecture, you have your kernel. On top of that, you install your Linux OS. Then there is a hypervisor which lets you to create virtual machines. When you spin up a virtual machine, it creates its own OS and it allocates the own hardware and it doesn't share those hardware with other VMs. So that is the drawback of this virtual machine. That's why the application container concepts come into picture, like Docker engine or Docker containers, which you may be aware about it. What this application container gives you, it has its application image and it has all the binaries and libraries which are required for the application. Other stuffs or other binaries or libraries which doesn't need that application, which doesn't come with this. So this is not a complete OS image, it's just a supporting binary and supporting libraries with the application code. LXD containers are using both these concepts together and form a machine containers. So basically LXD, it is a complete OS, uses REST API to interact with the underlying kernel and Linux OS. That's the thing which makes it LXD machine containers lightweight. Let's understand more deep down details about LXD containers in the upcoming demo. Okay, so let's get started with the demo. So to make it more easy for you guys, I have created a separate repository which will explain you the initial commands of LXD containers, how to set up, how to install LXD, and what are the system requirements that you may need to have before going ahead with LXD containers. Okay, so in this guide I have specified or mentioned you need to have more than 4 or 8 cores of CPU, then memory in between 8 gig to 32 gig, whatever whichever it is available on your desktop or laptop. Storage may be vary from 20 gig to 500 gig. Okay, so these are the minimum system requirements which we may you can which may be found on your system regularly. Okay, so as I mentioned, this LXDE works as a service on your desktop or as a laptop with whichever system you are using. So it works as a service. So first we need to install the LXD and then we can start this LXD service and get started with creating LXD containers. Okay, so for this demo, I've used a Linux Ubuntu machine which is created under Vagrant. So it has a release of Ubuntu 18.04. Okay, so and this machine image is provided by Bionic. Okay, so before we need to install, we can do the apt-get update command. So we need to be sudo on this. So first we will update the system. Apt-get update. Okay, system is updated. Now we will install LXD using apt-get install LXD. Okay, say yes to continue, and then it will start to install LXD as a service on your system. So let's wait for a moment. Okay, so LXD is installed. Let's check the service is running or not. So initially it will not be in the running mode, but it must be loaded. So it is at the moment inactive and it is loaded. So let's start the service. Systemctl start LXD. You need to be root sudo user to start the service. Okay, so if you check now, systemctl status LXD. Okay, so everything is running. Okay, so now in order to start with LXD, you need to set up it with some configurations. So before that, if you want to run the LXD commands using the regular user instead of a root, you need to add the root user into this LXD group. So I will add a vagrant user as a group member of LXD group. So I will add the use G password to add vagrant user into LXD. Okay, so now the user has been added. In order to make this effective, you need to log out from your VM, and again you need to log in back into the VM. So we'll do the vagrant SSH. Okay, we logged in back, and if you check the running command, so we will use LXD init command. Okay, in order to configure LXD, you need to run LXD init, which will ask few questions and which is defining your LXD behavior. Okay, so with LXD you can create multiple cluster setup. Let's say there is a unit of LXD containers which can interact with another LXD containers which are on a different cluster. So in this local practice to make your home lab, you don't need that. So we will say no as a default. And then the another question is, do you want to configure a new storage pool? Yes, because we want to store the configurations and LXD containers information. Then the name of the new storage pool, we will go with the default one, and we don't need a mass server at the moment, so we'll say no. Then would you like to create a local network bridge? Yes. So this is the one which is being used to whenever you create an LXD containers, that container needs to interact with the internet. So you need to have a bridge to interact with the local network and the internet. So we will say yes to create the bridge. And what would be the bridge name? So in order to identify which bridge network it uses, so in that the name suggested LXDBR0, so we'll stay with that one. And it is asking to create the or assign the IP addresses to the LXD, so we'll keep this auto for IPv4 as well as IPv6. Okay, so would you like to LXD to available over the network? So we'll go with the default one, which is no. So would you like stale cached image to be updated automatically? Yes, so we need that, so we'll go with default. Then would you like to YAML this output, because whatever configuration you may need to use for another cluster. So at the moment we are not creating any other new cluster, so we'll stay with the default one. Okay, so these are the questions which will set up your LXD cluster, which is on your local. Okay, so in order to interact with this LXD container or this LXD daemon, so we are using LXC, so we can have this LXC installed. So it comes with both the versions, client and server. So this is the utility LXC, which will be used to interact with creating the virtual machines, deleting the virtual machines and all. Okay, so we are using LXC. So if you want to know more commands of LXC, so you can use help, which will give you the list of the commands which you can use with LXC. Okay, so now till now it's all okay, everything is going good. Now let's do some more commands with LXC. So at the moment LXC, okay, it doesn't have any machine created. So before that we need to know if in order to create let's say you want to install a Ubuntu machine, so you need a version like Ubuntu 16.04, Ubuntu 18.04, Ubuntu 20.04, but where these images is residing. So if you want to know that, LXC remote list, and these are the repositories from where the LXC will pull the images. So it has the you built-in Ubuntu library repository from where you can pull the images. Okay, so what if you want to know what are the images are available on these repositories? So let's check that as well. LXC image list, and we can use images. And if you want to check, let's say CentOS, and we'll pipe that to list, so we'll have a page by page view. Okay. Okay, so here it is listing CentOS 7. If you want to create a machine with CentOS 7, it is available. Then CentOS 8 is also available, and so on and so forth. You can find any image which you want to create a machine container. Okay, so now we will go and create one first our container with Ubuntu. So if these images are not locally downloaded on your system, first it will go and download this image on your local system and then create the local container machine. So in order to create the machine, you can use LXC launch, and the image name here in this case we are using Ubuntu 16.04, and we'll give the container name through which we can identify the local container machine container. So my Ubuntu. Okay, at the moment it is creating. It may take some time because the current image is not available. As you can see, it is downloading the image which is from the remote repository. So let's wait for some time to get this image downloaded and this container created. Okay, so now the image has been downloaded and now it is creating and starting the my Ubuntu container machine. Okay, so now it's complete with creating and downloading the image and creating the LXC container. So if you run now LXC list, it will show you the my Ubuntu machine and which is in running state, and it has this IP. Okay, so everything looks good now. So let's check the image, LXC image list. So now we have the image of Ubuntu 16.04, and we also have created the container. Okay, so if you want to go inside the container to run some downloading and installation of any tool, so LXC exec and my Ubuntu image, and we are using bash to interact with it. Okay, so at the moment we are in the LXC container. So if you see lsp release -e, it will show you the Ubuntu 16.04. Okay, so let's exit out from this image. Okay, one more thing I want to show you, that is LXC exec my Ubuntu bash, sorry. Okay, let's clear the screen. Okay, now if you want to check the connectivity with the network, then we can use apt get update. It should work. Okay, so it is now interacting with the local bridge, which is created for LXD container, and is interacting with the internet as well. So this is how you create the local LXD container. Okay, it is also interacting with the internet. Okay, let's get back. LXC list. Okay, so now at the moment it is running. So if you want to stop it, then we can use LXC stop my Ubuntu. Okay, it is list stopped. LXC list. It will show you the container is stopped. Okay, so now if you have done with your work and now you want to delete the LXC containers, then you can use LXC delete my Ubuntu. I can delete, and if you run LXC list, okay, the container is gone. Okay, so so let's do one more machine to be created, just to show you if the image is not going to download every time. So I'll create one more machine, LXC launch Ubuntu 16.04, and this time I will give my VM. Okay, so this time it will not download, it will straight away go for starting the LXD container machine. Okay, see how quick it is, and it is in the line mode. At the moment it doesn't have that IP, it will assign it. Yes, so you can see the IP has also been assigned. Okay, so what else we can do with this LXD containers? We show in image list, start, stop, delete. Okay, if you want to copy the LXC already created image and with another name, you can create that as well. So let's do that. Okay, LXC copy my VM to, let's say, it's Ubuntu. Okay, So it is copied. So this is the way to create machines quickly. So at the moment the Ubuntu is being created, and we can start LXC start Ubuntu, and if you see LXC list, okay, it is running but without IP. LXC list, it will assign the IP as well. Okay, it takes some time to assign the IP at the moment. Okay, so now we have seen what else we can check with LXD, which you can, okay, profile. So profile is the one which is get default used while creating the LXD containers, which defines how the container configurations would be. Okay, so if you want to know which are the current profile which is being used, so we can use LXC profile help. Okay, this is the profile command, and its options: we can add profile, assign, copy, create, delete, edit, list. Okay, so we'll see which is the default profile is used. So we'll use the LXC profile list. So at the moment default is the one and which is used by, let me clear the screen, LXC profile list. Okay, at the moment there are two containers running and which is using the default profile. Okay, so now we'll go and create more. If you want to know what is the profile it is being configured, so we can use LXC profile show default. Okay, so it is using this is the description, and you can set the configuration of that profile as well. Okay, so in order to create the custom profile, so we can use LXC profile copy and the current profile name and the custom profile name. So LXC profile copy default to my custom. Okay, so if you see LXC profile list, so now there are two profiles available, my custom, and in order to edit the custom profile you can use LXC profile edit my custom. Okay, so it's opens with the default editor. Okay, so now we will change the default with the some memory or CPU usage, and then we will launch it. Okay, so in order to do that we will remove this config, and we will add two more key, limits dot CPU colon 2, and we will add limits dot memory colon 2 GB. Okay, we will save this. Okay, so now we need to use the flag to create this to create the containers from this profile. So we'll use LXC launch my sorry, Ubuntu colon 1604 and my custom VM with profile profile my custom. So it will not again download the image, but it will apply the profile which we created for the custom VM. So let's wait to get this started. Okay, if you see LXC list, okay, so we have one more VM which is running. Okay, so VM is created. It doesn't have the IP, so let's check LXC list. Okay, so now it is running with the IP as well. So if you check LXC profile list, so you can see my custom VM has one machine container is running. Okay, so so that's it for this demo, and this is how you create the machines, and you can install many other tools in the different machines and VMs which you need to practice the DevOps activities or DevOps learnings. So if you like this video, then please share with your friends and do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.